Hello, everyone, and welcome to Meticulous Talks for April 28th. I am Chris,
I'm Hithroc.
and we've got a lot of material to get through this week. It's been a very exciting couple of weeks actually since the last time we streamed.
Yeah, we've got a lot of results.
Yeah, it was Whinny City results actually came out like the day before BABSCon, the deck list at least. The tourney happened the week before, I think. And then obviously there was BABSCon itself, which I was there for, and you were on the stream for the whole weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to occupy the bulk of our time this stream, going over, as mentioned in the announcement, just the Harmony tournaments, since both conventions had both Harmony and Core, but we'll get to Core in our next stream. But first, I just want to make a quick statement. Those of you who were around Reddit or who perhaps follow my blog, General's Notebook, know that I posted an article last night talking about the tournament floor rules and about the structure for dealing with draws and ties. And in that article, I essentially recommended that players should agree to flip a coin rather than follow the normal rules regarding draws. And I just wanted to verify that doing that is against the rules, and you should never do it. Do it, you're essentially inviting disqualification. And yeah, I'm sorry for having said that. For the record, don't do that. Keep on following the rules. And in the future, I'm going to make sure that I do the research and avoid saying things like that. So, just wanted to say that. Okay, so with that out of the way, you were on the stream for BABSCon, and I was there, so perhaps we can start just with whatever notable anecdotes or pointers that you had about that experience while it's still fresh in our minds. Did you have a favorite match you got to watch?
I mean, Poppy versus Poppy was very interesting because Poppy versus Poppy changes how you regularly play Poppy deck, so that was something to watch.
Yep. I know that happened like a couple times, right? Because that happened in the top 8 and also during Swiss.
In Swiss,
right?
Yeah. But yeah, I think like the Poppy is one of those rare decks that mirror match is very different from your regular. So it's very interesting. And I mean, a lot of matches were fairly close, which I really liked. Like, there was no really one-sided match where like one deck just beats the other. All of them were quite intense, and it wasn't clear who is going to win until the very end.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Harmony is. I'll admit the meta that I saw at the con was not a lot of what I was expecting. There's so many different things out there right now. Really hard control decks. Really, I mean, yeah. I see the word combo in the top 8 list quite a lot, but not combo the way that we're used to seeing it. Combo like She Poppy, like Seleno, like Bugle's fireworks thing. Yeah, different kinds.
Not an OTK.
Indeed, precisely.
And you were playing the teamwork thing.
I was. I just thought it was a cool interaction, and I was expecting a lot more Paradox Phony than there was, and I had some success with that deck against Paradox Pony before, provided that the opponent doesn't know that the correct play is to flip Changeling Pretender first, which unfortunately the Paradox Pony players did know, so I wasn't that successful with it.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I was, well, as anyone who's checked the results knows, I didn't make the top 8, but I had a whole lot of fun. I played against Bugle once, which yeah, just at least got to see it work. I couldn't do much of anything against him, and yeah, played against a bunch of other interesting things. I don't think I ever actually managed to play against the Poppy decks, I should say, but saw them in action. Interesting things. Like it's well, we'll talk about them more once we actually get to the results.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of, shall we? I suppose we'll start with the older results, the ones from Whinny City.
Yeah, makes sense.
And shall we kind of go from 1 to 4 or 4 to 1, or I guess
I think 4 to 1 makes sense.
Okay. Let me just get this in. Okay, so 4th place at Whinny City was Silver Hooves with a Muffin Mare deck.
Mono orange Muffin Mare. Don't see that very often. Usually I see Muffin Mare with blue.
Blue, white's a good pair. Purple, I mean, I've seen Muffin Mare done in all kinds of ways, but you're right, never mono orange. Well, there's no particular reason why it shouldn't work, and this kind of says so. See a lot of +1 power counter things happening.
Yeah. Coincidentally enough, I just played a game against a very similar deck a couple of hours ago. And something like this can really get power counters going, like seeing a friend with 9 power counters that is not a Rockhoof is not unheard of.
And if that's the case, then Rockhoof is going to get those counters very soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Delivery Crew is a friend that I've been seeing around actually lately. I don't think anyone really gave them much credit when Sequester and Beyond started, but counters are actually pretty good for what that's worth.
Yeah. They're very similar to the Shovel, except they're a friend and work at the end of the turn, but essentially they're the same in the end.
Yeah.
Delivery Crew also works very nicely with Applejack, the Festival Caterer, though she's not in this deck, but still.
Yeah, Festival Caterer is for when you just want to go totally nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
the only thing go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the great thing about this particular strategy is that you save so much AT on movement because you don't. Most of your power kind of gets sent over the air, as it were, rather than having to actually move anything. You just transfer it from home.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like having Swift, except you need a friend to target it with. But that's why there's Pirate Ship there. I'm a little bit surprised about Ember without any other dragons.
Sorry, super rare Ember?
Yeah. So I guess having your friends protected against frightening is great because frightens is the what power counters are afraid most of.
Hmm. Yeah, actually, there's no Appaloosa here, which is a little surprising. That uh, admittedly, we don't have any friends that are naturally 4 power or higher, but with all the counters going on, we
Yeah.
should be able to make that work most of the time. Then you don't have to worry about dismissal either, or well, unless your resource gets removed. But you have a pile of resources that the opponent wants to remove. So
Mm-hmm. I think this deck could also benefit from Granny Smith, Fit as a Fiddle. I think that card is great, and looking at Siders and an Apple Bloom, you're going to have some cards in your discard pile to banish.
oh yeah,
And having unremovable friend is pretty nice, especially since Fairy Punch and Unswirled were banned.
that's actually a really good point. I mean, as we've kind of seen, replacements have percolated out. Uh, but it's true that getting Granny stolen was basically one of the only ways that she realistically got removed. Um, and that card has always been around.
Mm-hmm.
Might be worth a try. And yeah, the deck has the discard mechanics. It has good enough events suite as well. Have stuff in the discard pile to work with. Uh, Even those follow my leads usually will get cycled with Apple Bloom, but there may come a time where you just need to banish it from the discard pile too.
Yeah.
All in all, pretty solid stuff actually.
Yeah, and for a monocolor, it can deal with some stuff, like Desert Rodent, Clipped Wings, help.
Yeah.
And bailouts.
Would you like to see perhaps the problem that gives people persistent in this problem deck?
I don't know. Like the thing with, I guess when you have Ember, it's great. But if you don't have Ember, frightening isn't as like you usually don't want your friends to be frightened anyway.
Hmm.
I'd probably like to see the problem that when you put your first power counter per turn, you may put another one. That could be helpful.
That one can get quite insane with shovel, with um, Rockhoof, with many things. Yes. Okay. Well, on to the next one, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. I like the next one.
Oh, that's right. It's this one. I was thinking you would probably appreciate this deck. Yes, it's Trixie. Trixie mono
It's Trixie.
purple aggro, which means I like it a lot too. This was one of the archetypes I was expecting to do well after Friends Forever came out. And it's working essentially to the same principle that I was assuming it would. Lots of events, cycle the events, play them again, make them cheaper, have a smoke and mirrors. All good stuff.
And a lot of unicorns.
A lot of unicorns indeed. Even Star Swirl. Very happy to see that.
And Starlight. I don't remember last time I saw Starlight.
Yes.
The Redeem one.
The Redeem one, of course. The AT one, yeah. Her all the time. The Magic Instructor, her all the time. Actually, there's a lot of Starlights in this deck. There's like 4 of them. But we're talking about Redeemed Glimmer. And yeah, I can't remember the last time I saw her in a real competitive list. But if you can make it work, the Snowfall Frost is a fine redeem target. Basically, that one only, really.
Yeah, you usually wouldn't redeem any other Starlight. But Snowfall Frost is a great, like, it costs 1, it's useless after you play it, and it has experience, so they do synergize very well with it.
And if taking charge manages to stay out, then you're looking at probably Star Swirl or Sunset or Sleight of Hoof would be your excellent, even Magic Instructor. They'll all be excellent free cards to drop down.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I actually just realized this deck has the possibility of Magic Instructor Samilo for the all the points. And it has enough unicorns to make it work too.
Yeah, but you would need like 4 unicorns and cards to confront with.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be hard to pull off, I think.
It's a miracle. It's a dream. But
yeah.
if it ever happens, it's possible.
It is. And Trixie can help you make it cheaper. And this is almost a core deck, with an exception of Awkward Silence and Snuddy Session.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting to see because those are both kind of the mid-rangey control-ish tools in here. Both of those primarily seen in control decks, but well, every aggro deck needs at least some ways to get back ahead. And
Yeah, I think it's just a way to slow down other aggro decks.
mm-hmm.
And Awkward Silence can be really nice if there's like a free bonus problem there or something. You can just stop the face off and do the face off your.
Yeah, precisely. And Study Session, as we all know, it's just killer against certain aggro decks.
Mm-hmm. And even non-aggro too, like Study Session stops AT gens for a turn, which makes them less valuable.
Exactly. So the other thing that's worth pointing out is that this is a 50-card deck. Shakes fist angrily. Which begs the question of if we play in a world where we're only allowed 45, what's the cruft? But whatever. Apparently, this fellow, actually, I forgot to mention his name. Golden Note. Gentleman piloted this deck. Well, thought the 50 was okay. If I recall correctly, Whinny City had a lot of actually unorthodox numbers in its deck lists. Some of the other top 4 ones, I think, were also not 45.
I'm actually quite curious why Trixie for a main. Like, this doesn't seem like a control deck, and Trixie, I don't think she's really can be an aggro main. I guess you can turn face offs on you, and Awkward Silence can cost 0, which is nice. But other than that, she doesn't really help. Like maybe something like Faithful Student would be better since we're in Harmony.
It's true, yeah. In core, that kind of makes sense because you only have 3 unicorn purple mains to pick from.
Yeah.
But in Harmony, there's actually see. Faithful Student does make a lot of sense. Let's see here. On purple. I'm on Royal Archive, by the way. Purple. Unicorns. Mains. So the great thing about Trixie is that she's got a really good flip condition. Well, it's a flip condition that you can do without. Actually, this is a good. Actually, let me look at the deck this game. How are we flipping normally?
I think we play Stellar Flare, and I think that's it. Is there? Oh no, there's Underlock and Tree. So you can play Magicide, you can play Hyper Beam. Well, Study Session is not an event, so I guess not. And Starlight Glimmer is a very nice start.
Okay, yeah, it's good.
The 18th one. And once you have at least one purple friend out, you can just play Stars for Research or something. Or even scope things out. Like, there's a lot of options to flip once you got started.
That's true, I guess. And yeah, so this deck almost always starts by moving to Lock and Tree. Well, yeah, has to start by moving to Lock and Tree. Then you get, yeah, you have access to enough entry to just make it work. Okay. So.
Yep.
Gallagher is similar. It just is when you play an event, turn this card over, and you get the Studious and the move an opponent's friend. Well,
the face-off stuff, which is actually very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a possibility.
Yeah, I think Gallagher could be actually nice in this deck. But I'm not against Trixie, no.
Well, obviously not. But yeah, cool deck. Number 2? Oh, sorry.
Huh?
I was gonna
yeah, go ahead.
Shall we move on?
I just wanted to make a last note that I actually never thought of, like, I thought of Unicorn Aggro, but I thought only in terms of core, and never thought about it in terms of harmony. Now that we explored the mains a little bit, I kind of want to dig further into this.
Yeah. I think it is a strong archetype, and probably, well, most archetypes are stronger in harmony, generally speaking, because there's more stuff to work with. So, doesn't work in core, try it in harmony. That's probably a fair piece of advice just to stick on your office wall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next deck?
Yep.
Alright. Yeah. Number 2 comes from oh yeah, this deck was really cool. I remember it. The Premier Fluttershy. Yes. It's over here. Excellent. Yes. Fluttershy Beastmaster and Critters. In some sense, this is a I guess you weren't around for it, but yeah, this is a little bit of a blast from the past of like what Premier Fluttershy used to do in the Premier set, augmented with a variety of modern tools.
Yeah, I haven't seen this. I think the closest thing I've ever seen is a Pauper deck, which did the similar thing. It was also mono yellow.
Yeah.
And I think it used the same Fluttershy. Maybe not. I don't remember.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, every friend either is a critter or else creates critters. So you're good there. Fluttershy, especially the ultra rare.
Mm-hmm.
That one will give you good value. Sure. And we've got plenty of events that generate critters, a dilemma that generates critters. Yeah, got a lot of critters.
Yeah, looks like an aggro deck to me. I'm kind of curious about Philomena. There's only 4 non-critter friends here. So, oh no, there's more than 4. There's 6 of them. So, is Philomena that useful? The one that gives critter trait to everyone.
I see. I'm looking through the problem deck here. So, okay. We have fast food. That's the main synergy.
Yeah, there's fast food and Fluttershy, and Fluttershy will with Philomena she will get +1 power too.
Right.
But there are so few friends here that are not critters.
Yeah.
So I think you'll get enough benefit from fast food and Fluttershy anyway. At least that's what I think.
Probably. Admittedly, this would be in a theoretical pink deck. It would be kind of funny to steal an opponent's friend and then turn it into a critter and get bonuses off of it and score phase. But anyway, yeah, you're right. It's probably a little bit of a small synergy to include a friend like Philomena in.
Steal a friend with pink and retire it with Kratos.
That would be nice.
Implies 3 colors, unfortunately.
3 color is totally doable. Yellow, pink, white, that might actually be not bad. Anyway. Yeah, the modus operandi is basically all the global +1s you can. Conductor's Baton and Fast Food and Fluttershy and Forest Owl. Actually, Flamingo, too. I forgot about that. That is... What does Fluttershy actually do again? The main? She is... She, moves to stuff.
Out of the face off, you may move a critter.
Okay, that's...
to that card's problem.
Yeah. So, that targeting, say, Flamingo, is actually quite impressive. Provided there's a bunch of critters there already, say, for example. That actually is a lot of power to suddenly bring in.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's... I feel like now Philomena might see more use since there's... I didn't see the Steam work, so that's even more things that give +1 from being a critter. Also, this deck is really good at going wide. It's critters and array effects. And not many decks have ways to deal with wide boards. The purple has School Shutdown and there's Patio 1. There's Catajack, but not many people run her. The Muffin Mare deck didn't have Catajack.
That's a good point. Yeah. And, well, we didn't see a whole lot of orange at BABSCon either.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Might be a path forward here. I suppose, since we had that discussion on the last deck, you think this main is the right choice, or?
Well, what other main would you use?
Yeah, I'm just going to look them up right now. So naturally, with this much low cost going wide stuff around, Thorax is a possibility.
Yeah, I suppose Thorax can be nice, but Thorax is harder to flip. Oh no, it's not. Never mind. This one is harder to flip than Thorax.
That's right.
Yeah, I guess Thorax could be nice, but I think they that kind of goes against the idea of the deck, which is synergize with critters as much as possible.
Okay, that's fair. What about, say, Friend to Animals? That's the other natural choice for critter aggro.
Yeah, I think Friend to Animals would be nicer. Because paying 1 to move your main, which will have 4 power, is more useful than moving something during a face-off.
Probably.
Because, as I see it, ultimately, in an aggro deck, you don't really care that much about face-offs themselves, but ways to do them as much as possible. And moving is during a face-off is less valuable, as I see it, than moving to confront.
Mm-hmm.
That's why nurturing nature is good.
That's basically true, yeah. Yeah, I don't really see any others that fit the bill. A lot of yellow minutes, though. Just going through the list, there's actually a number of them. Anyway. All right. And yeah, I remember looking at this. 46 cards for... but that's all I have to say about it, probably.
Well, I wanted to say that this deck has everything 2 off, but that's actually not true. There are a couple of 3 offs there, here and there.
Actually, that's a good point. That's a lot of 2s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 17 2s and 5 3s? No, 4 3s.
Yeah, it has to be 4, otherwise it wouldn't be 46.
Possibly somewhere. Oh, go ahead.
I think there's not much ways to deal with troublemakers here. Maybe the idea is just to beat them up.
So we've got the dilemma, and
I think that's it.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I think a nice inclusion would be something like Friends Always There, which does give you critters, is a resource removal, and gets around troublemakers. Not epic ones though, but
right.
Since the AJ ban, I don't think you'll see farm very often, so epic is usually not a big concern.
Yeah, that would work pretty well. Put that in place of Rise and Shine, perhaps? I don't know. Rise and Shine is potentially...
Rise and Shine is... Yeah.
Yeah, it's pay 1 for, like, potentially 10 power or something. In this deck. Yeah, I mean, there's probably space for it somewhere.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you could remove Philomena, like I would probably do that.
Yeah, that'd be an okay idea.
Because I think of 280 investment into Philomena, you'll get more, like, for the same cost, you'll get more from Friends Always There.
Seems good, yeah. Okay, next up.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, so that takes us to the winning list. Oh, wait a second. Is this the... I actually didn't... Oh, wait, hold on a second. Okay, I'm looking at the wrong tournament. Right, I saw Poppy and I was like, wait a second. Okay.
Now, have Ambassador of Loyalty, and it's not a farm.
Alright.
49 cards.
That's right. I remember. There is more. There's a lot of strangeness this tournament.
I mean, if everyone runs more than 45, then you might as well too, right?
Wait. This deck isn't showing up properly in the...
Yeah, it's a little bit broken. I'm not sure why.
Okay. So for what it's worth, those on stream, there's a Fire of Friendship in here too that's not showing up.
Yeah, I think that's the only card that is not on show.
So yeah, there's 2 of those if you do the math, and either we're 2 cards short. Or, well, I suppose if you did the math, you'd conclude that we were 2 cards over, but it's a 49 card deck, so we're actually 2 cards short. Anyway, like you said, Ambassador of Loyalty, not farming, pretty aggro, actually.
Yeah, looks like an aggro deck to me.
There's actually a lot to take in here. Second. So we've got a little bit of Dragon synergy with the power plays. And Gallison Smolder and Smolder.
I mean, makes sense because Smolder, like the Smolder with competitive 2 is small card, probably won't be removed. Like you can rely on it being on the field. So, and power play is not too bad even without dragons. Like it's basically barrel through, but costs 1 more. And the flip is very nice. The chaos effect.
Precisely. And this deck's got a pretty good flip average. It appreciates flipping more stuff more often than not.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, we do have it's worth pointing out that even Gallison Smolder, normally not a particularly amazing card, but similar to the deck we started the stream with, +1 power counters help it out a lot. This deck does have Rainbow Connection and Brotherly Love, and that's it actually for counters on stuff. But that card gets to 4 or 5, suddenly it's actually very good.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of ET gens. There's Vulnerable Stadium, there's Harsh Desire, and Burst of Speed.
All kind of non-traditional, or at least cards you wouldn't normally think of when you say AT gen, but they all work.
A Wonderbolt Stadium, I would say it's an ET gen.
Oh yeah, precisely.
But the other ones, yeah. Here's a power play. Play Burst of Speed and retire Harsh Desire.
Ooh,
Get 780 and lose it all.
Oh, that's right. Wait, is that? Wait a second. End the face off. You do win a face off before it ends, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Harsh Desire is face off reaction, so you have to use it during a face off.
Good point. Yeah. Ouch. But well, you played the event. There's nothing in here that synergizes auto playing events, but whatever.
You can play like Burst of Speed into power play. Yeah, you will lose. Like if you have 0 AT, that's a good thing because your opponent doesn't expect you to have some sort of response.
Yeah, I don't mean to imply that Burst of Speed itself is a bad card. It's there are a lot of immediates in this deck that will appreciate you having it.
Yeah, if you're sitting at 0 AT, even if you don't use all 3 AT, it's still pretty nice to have a trick.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not sitting at 0 AT, you can just not play Burst of Speed and play what you wanted.
Yep. And as the people who play Ambassador of Loyalty to farm know, 4 blue is not a requirement at all, especially during face-off.
Yeah, this looks to me, and I've got like okay, this deck looks to me kind of like a counter farming deck. It has a lot of Troublemaker busting. There's AJ. Ambassador of Loyalty is a good thing to bust Troublemaker with. There is One Glint Warrior, which can't be frightened. There's power plays and things Brave in the Bold. Like, this deck tries to win face-offs a lot and benefit from them as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
There's Changeling can change too. And Carbol, like, I don't know, there's everything to make farm suffer here. At least if they keep more than one epic in play and don't farm them immediately.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, you're right. This deck, if it wants to win a face-off, it will do that no problem. I didn't mention Rainbow Dash and Applejack as well. That card is, you don't see it very often in Constructed, but in Limited, that card can be just devastating. And that is totally true. Swift 4 power is already bad enough. If it gets any diligent triggers, it's just very good.
Yeah. And deck cycling. I think deck cycling can be pretty nice in an aggro deck because you can get rid of the stuff you don't need. You can discard Fire of Friendship.
Yep. This deck's got a lot of, a lot of stuff in it, shall we say. And any way to smooth out your deck and filter through stuff is appreciated.
Yep.
Actually, quite an interesting little thing.
Yeah. Given the amount of ways to win face-offs here, I'm thinking about that Muffin Mare deck and what happens with a lot of power counters usually is that you have huge frenzied problems, and your opponent will think twice before starting a face-off because they might as well lose it. And I don't think this deck struggles with that.
Good point, yeah. They don't necessarily have a lot of power, but we're going to flip 6 cards. And actually, that's a good question. How many? Because we have Carbo Loader. How many Earth Ponies do we have?
There's Limestone, but you usually want to exhaust her anyway. There's Big Mac.
Big Mac. Too Cool, Applejack. Is that it?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, Carbo Loader by herself is nice. She's a 3 for 4. She can exhaust herself if you need it. And there's some things that give her Swift, like calling the Dream Cavalry or Pirate Crew.
Yeah.
For a huge friend, she is nice.
Probably still, yeah. Cool. All right.
Okay. To the BABSCon?
To the BABSCon lists. Since there was a top 8 cut, we'll just go through them all.
Yeah, makes sense.
Starting with Max's Nurturing Nature Blue. Yes, Nurturing Nature Blue, Pegasus deck.
Mm-hmm. I actually seen this on stream.
You have?
Yep.
Okay.
It was, blue-yellow. Blue-yellow did blue-yellow thing. And this is one of those decks which is a core deck with a couple of cards from Harmony.
Oopsies. Did I not do this right? Yeah, sorry. Keep talking. I'm still trying to get this to show up on stream.
I actually don't remember against which deck we saw it. But I just remember we saw it.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. So yeah, as I said, Blue Yellow does Blue Yellow things. It's mostly Pegasus. There's Daybreaker there who is not Pegasus and Identity Theft, but other than that...
Lemon Hearts as well, but yeah.
Oh yeah, Lemon Hearts is not a Pegasus.
Yeah, this is pretty straightforward stuff. Lots of lemmas to deal with those troublemakers. And for what it's worth, Shoeshine is essentially an anti-troublemaker tool as well.
Yeah.
The T acceleration from Cloud Tracer and Flitter, which we all knew was going to happen. Uh, similar +1 stuff. Relax. All good. This is like old, almost. Well, is blue yellow aggro old fashioned? I feel like it kind of is, or yellow blue, I guess.
Maybe.
It's been around for a little while, right?
Well, yeah. Ever since Sequestria, I suppose, and wasn't really a thing during Defenders.
Yeah.
But Sequestria have been here for a while.
Mm-hmm. And for what it's worth, this deck has quite a few Friends Forever cards in it, so can't really call it old fashioned.
I'd probably like to see here business attire somewhere. At least if I was building a deck like this, I would put business attire here because I would expect a lot of removal.
Mm-hmm.
And business attire is great against all those pesky old monies.
That is true. Old monies.
Being especially after Berry Punch and those, like Berry Punch and or Swirl Ban solves a lot of things. If you have like business attire at home, you can basically gamble that they're not going anywhere without like removing them twice.
Yeah, since Sonata is only local, Pinky's Present can still do it, but
yeah, but I haven't seen that Pinky's Present that much.
Yeah, most people have chosen Sonata. Yeah, and indeed, the deck does have your Daybreakers and your Night Gliders are going to be the main sources for removal, since they are such impressive friends.
Well, Daybreaker is not the Pegasus, but yeah.
Oh, it's a good point. Yeah. Well, Night Glider anyway. Oh, I forgot to mention Shoeshine's not a Pegasus. That's important to point out as well.
Yeah, she's a Nerf pony.
Shame that.
She's a very fast Nerf pony at that. I guess if you wanted more Pegasus synergies, you would probably, like, I don't know, replace Shine with a Thunder Lane or something. Or remove Daybreakers for a Thunder Lane. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a...
This deck doesn't try to be, like, all full Pegasus.
Yeah. Thunder
the only card that synergizes... Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, Thunder Lane's a bit of a reach since we have a yellow main. The only thing.
Yeah, that's fair. But you have a lot of like competitive friends here. There's 6 of them. And potentially 7. If you copy.
Precisely. Yeah, it wouldn't be hard to get up to 4 blue for a single priority window. And that's all Thunder Lane.
So what I want to say, I think like the only 2 cards that synergize with Pegasus is Chillax and Ancestor Factory. And everything else is just blue-yellow without really trying to... It just happens that blue-yellow has a lot of Pegasus friends.
Yeah. And on Satisfactory Work, I don't really count because you have a Pegasus main. So you're not...
Yeah.
It's always on no matter what you've got on the field. But, yeah, Chillax is almost good enough. I think you're kind of right about appropriate business attire. Because, yeah, there's a lot of removal around. And that card is just nuts. Not kind of meta.
Yep.
Especially given, as you mentioned right up at the start of the stream, this deck is not one of those power counter decks. After anything gets unfrightened, it's, right back to it. Most of the power in this deck comes from modifiers that don't necessarily go away when a friend gets frightened, with the exception of Shoeshine, I suppose.
Well, I guess Chrysalis loses something, but that's it.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, next deck.
Okay, next deck. Next deck is
Turn
somewhat
down the mud.
yes. It's Symbol's been playing this deck well for a number of years now, basically, right? It was.
I think it's around 1 year because the first time we saw it was at BABSCon last year.
Yeah, anniversary of Polino Niagara. And for the most part, this list hasn't changed a whole lot. Inclusion of Daybreaker, Greta, Fighting, and Washed's performance.
Yeah. The original list also had white, but he was slowly removing white with each deck iteration. It's actually really cool to see like how the deck developed over time into what we have now.
Mm-hmm. Was Under the Wire in the original list? I feel like that's new too.
I don't remember. It might have not been because like you needed space for white.
Yeah, but now obviously it synergizes with Greta, with Daybreaker. That's an amazing friend to just suddenly drop on her face off. It's a Spitfire, of course. Actually, yeah, it's just so Rainbow Dash and Mullet already have Hasty, but aside from that, all of the friends in the deck are just great to have Hasty on.
Yeah, Spitfire is 6 power outright. Loyal Pony and Greta can help you move Daybreakers at immediate speed or have some power.
Yeah.
I think a new addition which wasn't there before is Queen Chrysalis.
Oh, yes.
I wonder if he does some farming stuff with it, like when he needs to. I haven't seen that on stream, but on stream he had a really hard time against Grumpos.
Right, I see. Interesting. I mean, yeah, I guess so. This deck, it can do it. Daybreaker, Mullet, as we said, all that hasty stuff. Yeah, it wouldn't be out of the question to potentially farm it off. And it's not a bad choice against opposing aggro, I suppose. Oh, especially, yeah, since we have Change It Can Change as well. Oh, wait, no, that's only opposing token. All right, never mind.
Yeah. No Pipsqueak.
But yeah, this deck is still good. It's one of those decks, like, I feel like should get more play. It's basically been just Sokol keeping this thing at the top, but doing it.
We've seen people try Selena Purple, but other than that, yeah, it's mostly Sokol who plays this type of deck. Okay, next deck.
Yep. Next up is Godot's deck, the DJ White mid range. Did you ever get a chance to see this one on screen?
Yeah, and I remember Hoops being quite amazing.
Yeah, I think I managed to play against this deck once. Well, not a full game, but in a practice match. And yeah, Hoops is he's very much an Orange Swirl, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Well, with the Chaos effect.
Yeah.
And costs 2, not 1. But was kind of great, yeah.
Yeah. And it almost makes you think that, being more expensive and having a higher rec and maybe this is kind of what Very Bunch and Orange Swirl ought to have been.
Yeah. On stream, we've mostly seen this deck use RTO to just accelerate through the game very fast until the opponent can deal with her, of course.
Yeah.
But if we take a look at the problem deck here, most of the problems have. Well, actually, no, half of the problems have. Oh, not half. Most of the problems have bonus too.
It's most, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
and the ones that don't are starting problems and Yuck Slobberfest.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's actually worth pointing out that like the way that Harmony is, it is a bit of a slower format in general. Like obviously there's aggro around, but there's a lot of slow value control decks, and in that format, just being able to drop an RTO and suddenly score 5 or 7 points or whatever. Well, 7 is obviously a lot, but 3 or 4 on a turn. That can sometimes be incredibly surprising to the opponent, and when you can get away with it, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
I had that happen to me a couple times in the tournament as well. Not from Godot's deck, from someone else's, but yeah, it's good. And the rest of the deck is, I don't want to say fairly standard pink-white, but it's got some of the stuff we expect to see in pink-white decks. So your Soprano, your Miss Main, your Bodyguard. Tender Taps will get back, well, yeah, you can get back a lot of the good stuff with Tender Taps.
Yeah. I wonder why Changeling Infiltrator and not Juggling Routine. Because they're essentially the same, except this one is a 1-point troublemaker with low power and doesn't draw a card for both players.
Yeah. Well, okay, so Changeling Infiltrator also retires one of your friends, right?
Oh yeah, you have to retire a friend. You have unicorns, it's fine.
Yeah, you have unicorn tokens. If you have to retire one of your other friends and you get a unicorn token, and you'll search up another one again with Cadence. It's possible that we consider having to retire something is actually better than not.
Well, with Hoops, I guess, but Hoops is the only thing I can think of.
Yeah. And you'd have to... Sorry. Oh no, it's when you play a card to a problem. Yeah, so with Hoops it works. Yeah, with Hoops it works. Retire, to steal, retire, uncover. Not terrible, I guess.
Well, I guess if you don't have bodyguards as a retire outlet.
Yeah.
I really like Berry Punch here because she's like little Silverstream without eccentric.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's always been the case.
Yeah, and that's how he used it on stream. That was quite fun to see.
Sniffs and Snails, notably, is pretty good given the way the Trollmakers are used right now. It's notably not, at least not terrible even against Bugle's deck, because you can't get rid of the Nightmare Runes through basically any other way. This deck's got both Cracking the Case and Sniffs and Snails to potentially get rid of them.
Yeah, and cleaning up to get rid of them again, so Bugle can't recurse. Cleaning up is a good card.
And on top of that, yes, piles of removal in general, with both the Food Fight and the Belly Flop. Cleaning up as well. Technically, we can recur stuff forever because we have a Miss Main too, and plenty of ways to retire her. So,
yeah,
This main just makes cores strange. Suddenly, everything can come back again. Or sorry.
Yeah, but
This is Harmony. My apologies.
yeah, in Harmony you have a lot of like juggling routine and things like that. But yeah, and in Core, I think the only repeatable recursion, which is not missed main, is Cadence from Sequestria.
Yes.
I don't think there's anything else. Well, I guess if you count Sweetie Belle main, there is that too, but other than that, everything else is not really repeatable.
There's the Magic Instructor loop as well. Technically.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's still out there, still not good enough. But anyway. Yeah, cool deck. Moving on?
Yeah, next deck.
Alrighty. Yeah, next up is Aracat with the
Stream Yellow.
Stream Yellow, that's right.
Which is a core deck.
Precisely, yeah. Right. Yes, so it is. And then, if I recall correctly, let me just look. Is this exactly the same as the deck that he ran in Core?
I wouldn't be surprised if yes.
It looks very similar.
Yeah, I think it is the same.
So yeah, pink, yellow. Technically, there is just the barest hint of white there with the bodyguard. For up to me, I'd probably say he was flashing white, but people have their own definitions of that kind of stuff. Yeah, this is pretty much doing what pink yellow is best at, which is remove everything. Remove all the friends, remove all the resources, stop you from ever getting them back with blindfold, have a bunch of anti-troublemaker tricks with Meadowbrook and
T with Discord is amazing.
Yeah. And yeah. Remove all your opponent's stuff and then win sometimes. So, given having said all that, it's perhaps small wonder that the bodyguard's in here because, yeah, with that much removal, that's a lot of unicorns.
Yeah, and unicorns really help with unplanned guests because they're just fuel for them. And unplanned guests is a really nice card. I'm not sure why people don't run it more often. But I guess I didn't see much pink yellow decks. But yeah, it's a great card because usually if your opponent doesn't go wide, and people usually don't really go wide very often, making them retire a friend, they will usually have to retire some significant friend because all of their friends are significant. And looky here, you have pipsqueaks, gummies, like unicorns. I guess if your opponent doesn't exhaust anything, breakdown can be a good thing to retire too.
Yeah, we see a lot of in Harmony these relatively compact assortments of friends that, yeah, they all work together. Like, say, for example, Old Money and Minuet, as we're going to see later on up the list, where, yeah, cracking one of those is just very good. As you say, this deck has no qualms about retiring stuff. Heck, you retire the unplanned guest itself, if you want to.
Yeah, if you have nothing else, that works. So paying 280 to make your opponent retire a friend is just a bad foot fighter by default.
Tis true. Tis true. And the other interesting and important key tech card is this Smooth as well, for all those combos, or getting rid of Miss Main the second she hits the discard pile.
No, you can get rid of Miss Main.
Oh, that's right. Non-friend. Non-friend. Ah.
Yeah, I always forget that too.
Yeah. But, okay. Well, there's plenty of other important things that go to discard piles that are not friends.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, with that plus the blindfold, there's a lot of recursion hate in this deck.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of decks love recursion. Even the Poppy deck has recursion. So I guess we can't really get rid of Poppy here, but blindfold helps a lot. And blindfold also great against Meticulous, against all those old monies that have Meticulous too.
That's the card that's great against Miss Main. There we go. Yeah, and then on top of that, we've got what we've got a functional mid-range deck in there as well. What with A shift and enough eccentric stuff to make the opponent have a bad time. Plus, as I mentioned, as we mentioned, enough stuff to get through troublemakers when necessary. Tea with Discord is just an incredible event that very good.
Yep.
It's almost a little surprising, actually, that we can say, here's a yellow deck that doesn't have any dilemmas and yet is still amazing against troublemakers. Just because Meadowbrook and Discord are both such strong cards.
Well, to be fair, yellow has a lot of ways to deal with troublemakers outside of dilemmas and these two cards. But these two cards are just... ooh. When they hit hard.
Precisely.
Okay, all next deck.
Sure thing. So this brings us to the top 4. Yes?
Fireworks.
I've been mentioning Bugle's deck. Yeah. Okay. I was going to say possibly the most unconventional deck in Harmony, but this, that statement has to be measured against the Poppy deck too, and that's not entirely obvious which of them is necessarily the more unconventional. I think Bugle's deck still is, because it's this is a mill deck. There's been like none of that. Well, there's been some of that in the past, but not a whole lot.
Yeah, but here's the point. Have you seen many random decks in the past?
That is a good point. Yeah, Harmony is an unconventional format.
Yeah.
Right now. Leave it there. Anyway, yes. Bugle didn't make any secret of the fact that this is what he wanted to and intended to run at BABSCon. He ran it in the Heiko tournament. If anyone hasn't seen the fireworks combo yet, the basic idea is to put Nightmare Moon out on both problems, and then during your ready phase or start troublemaker phase, you turn them over so that they uncover again, and then fireworks turns them back over and they uncover again, and suddenly your opponent is almost out of cards. Then you do it again a few times, and then they are out of cards. Then you misfire them, and then you win with mismains.
And you have juggling routine to get the stuff back with mismains. Yeah, but usually what happens with this deck is that, from what I've seen, it tries to mill, and after it is done, opponent can't really do anything. So you can try to defeat your own Nightmare Moons, or just you have to score points at some point, right? And this deck doesn't have a lot of AT to work with after all of the fireworks shenanigans to just score points of Mist Main. So you have to deal with Nightmare Moons yourself.
Yeah. Notably, you don't have to score a whole lot of points. It's not uncommon for us to be at the end step, or going to time or whatever, and the score is still 1-0 or 2-0 or whatever, because he got his Nightmare Moons out and then just milled you for the rest of the game. So yeah, only has to score like 3 or 4, generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, at the end of the game, when he's misfired you and then juggling routine himself, well, yeah, it's suddenly a lot easier to beat Nightmare when he's flipping and you're not.
Yeah. Of course, there's a risk that your opponent might still be able to defeat Nightmare Moon, and giving 3 points to your opponent is a lot of points.
Yeah, that would be difficult to deal with. But yeah, this deck gets a lot of its strength mainly just from being so unconventional. You have to rethink how your deck plays usually to see the way forward.
Yeah.
Notably, the deck is vulnerable to getting misfired itself a little bit. If you can catch both misnames in the discard pile and then get rid of them, you're in a better spot. And was it Ara's deck? Yeah. Blindfold is pretty good as well against this particular deck. Worth pointing out that Blindfold does protect you from getting misfired, since your cards can't leave the discard pile.
Or Destiny Drained.
Indeed.
But there's a way to remove it here, so.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's not to imply that this deck automatically loses to either of those. Bugle's too smart for that. But yeah, those are the kind of the main things to think about if you want to try to engineer a deck to beat him.
Yeah. And in speaking of Varus deck, too, this Discord is especially great against this deck because once Bugle puts Nightmare Moons down, you can dismiss them while they all face down, which is kind of great.
That's actually a really good point.
However, Bugle might anticipate that, and I guess, or if you're playing this deck, you might anticipate that and play Fireworks after putting Nightmare Moons down, which is good too.
It's good. It's notable that if you turn them face up with Fireworks, their uncover effects won't go off. But you do still get the random discards at least, yeah.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, yeah, we're not going to get to Grandpa's deck for a little while yet. But that is the deck that crashed this one out of the top 4. That one wasn't on stream, if I recall correctly. It was...
Yeah, top 4 was Poppy vs. Poppy on stream.
Yeah, but that one essentially, it was over relatively quick. Essentially, Bugle just kind of got a bad draw, and Grandpa's got set up, and Bugle was just like, okay, this isn't going to work, and conceded.
Yeah, we actually heard on stream how quick it was. And we were like, oh, they already finished their game out there.
Mm-hmm. I was quite disappointed, because I wanted to see a good game. Yeah. But anyway, sometimes these things just happen. Alrighty, next up.
Okay, maybe we should skip the Poppy for now, because it's the first deck as well, and talk about Grandpa's deck, and then...
Sure, that works.
Go to Poppy. Okay.
So we mentioned the minuet thing in passing. This interaction is actually kind of absurd. I've never played against it, but I can see how it could be very frustrating. I don't know. Did you see it like blossom to its full potential on stream?
Not really. I think we saw this deck twice, maybe 3 times. But I think it was mostly twice. And GP couldn't really manage to set up the board that will be advantage to him. Like, the way this deck works is you have Minuet with Old Money, which is great by itself. But then there's Trenderhoof, which you can pay 1 and get any card back if he leaves play. Or if any unicorn friends at the same problem leaves play, and hey, old money is a unicorn. And the same works with Portal. You can portal old money, pay one, and get the portal back, and stuff like that. But unfortunately, we haven't seen it that much on stream. Against Poppy deck, he had a hard time because you can see that he runs Nightmare Moons here. And the thing is, Poppy deck also runs Nightmare Moons. So what happened on stream is that Grumpos was sitting without hand the entire game, pretty much. Because the thing with Poppy deck, it runs Vinyl, and Vinyl is a card draw advantage. This deck doesn't have that, so with 2 Nightmare Moons out, it had a really hard time keeping up.
That's a good point, I guess. Yeah, I mean, that's actually something that I haven't pointed out, but there's been a lot of Nightmare Moon across the whole top 8. Just quickly look. So, okay. Max's deck didn't. That makes sense. It's a aggro deck. You know, Sokol's deck didn't. Godot didn't. Oh, okay. Fair enough.
I think Grumpos, Poppy, and Bugle are the only ones.
Yeah.
But that's for, 3 decks and 4 players.
And it's the top 4 as well, yeah.
And
I think there was at least a little bit more out there in the bottom few as well. Actually, hang on a second. I wasn't. Paradox Pony wasn't. Well, anyway. That's still a lot of Nightmare.
Yeah.
It was pointed out afterwards that Fire of Friendship is very, very meta in Harmony right now due to all of that. Anyway, yeah. The regardless of how it went on stream, over the course of the tournament, Grandpa's saw some pretty good success with this. Essentially, as you say, on that core interaction. A3, get anything back, dismiss or banish anything. Pretty good.
Yeah, sounds pretty good.
You've got good amount of Meticulous, good amount of AT Gen. It honestly sounds a lot like old style control. Trenderhoof is stepping into F-Stop's shoes and being just as annoying, if not more so.
Yeah, F-Stop, he's very similar to F-Stop. It's also kind of similar to Bulk Portal. I think it even has the same cost. You just have to have Trenderhoof in addition to old money.
Simply the way that things go in card games, when the degenerate thing gets banned, the next most degenerate thing steps in. Welcome, Trenderhoof.
Yeah.
I suppose the one thing that perhaps needs to get talked about is the Singleton Coco Pamel here. Simply put, it's another excellent card to menu bet, I'm pretty sure, right? Since, yeah, it allows you to recur an event, and that event doesn't just get banished after you play it. So, yeah, another fine Earth Pony to cycle with menu bet as desired.
Yeah. Too bad she's not a unicorn. That'll be too good.
That would be quite a bit too good, yeah. Okay. So, let's talk about Poppy.
The thing that I did not see coming.
So, yes. Poppy was first played in Vancouver Store Championships, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was called RNG.deck.
Yes. And this one well, no official name was given, but it's very similar, functionally the same thing. So yeah, we still have all the random stuff that you could care to name, except for like a couple few of them. Still got the amazing tech spyglasses, the party mares, the flurry hearts, and of course those 3 sea poppies. Now, I guess one interesting thing that I can relate after having seen this deck play is that I don't know if I necessarily say more often than not, but often, sea poppy gets removed, whatever. This deck just wins on the back of party mare instead, where it's just, oh, your party mares now are like 7 and 6 power respectively, and you're just playing aggro, and that's good enough.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened in the final round. I think Grandpa's just Destiny drained Sea Poppy, and that's it. There's no more Sea Poppy, but the thing is that the rest of the cards here are still good enough to just play straight aggro. Patimare is great. Rainbow Dash and Pinky are very good. They move to random problems, but they move 3 characters to random problems. And there's, of course, Angel Wing. Lead Pony Badge is very nice. It was mostly used to... So, as far as I understand, Lead Pony Badge was here to unexhaust Sea Poppy and score a point again. But if you have no Sea Poppy, it can also be used on Vinyl Main, which is great.
Or Twilight and Spike as well would also be a great target.
Yeah. And I think Lead Pony Badge is one of the primary reasons why Sea Poppy deck won in the final match, because there were 2 Nightmare Moons out, and he just kept drawing a lot of cards with Lead Pony Badge and Vinyl, giving him quite a bit of hand. He almost decked himself at the end of the game, but he was still ahead on points by a lot.
Makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, the meme has become all too real. So far as this one goes. As mentioned, this deck was first and top 4, getting run twice over the course of the tournament. As I believe the player who got the top 4, his record was also, as he said, his deck only lost to itself. Lost to Richard in Swiss and to Richard in elimination.
Yeah.
So, another vote of confidence, possibly, in the strangeness that this is.
Yeah, in the mirror, one Sea Poppy deck wins and the other one loses. No way around that.
So, you mentioned at the start of stream that the mirror is an interesting matchup. I didn't get a chance to watch them. I just kind of assumed I'd watch them later because they both happened on stream. Care to elaborate at all about that?
Well, that's because suddenly your random effects are not only beneficial for you, but for your opponent as well. And you kind of have to be careful with when you want to play them, because if they have Sea Poppy and you don't, suddenly a lot of cards that you have work against you, which is not an ideal situation. And when both players have Sea Poppy, it's even more fun, because there's this thing here that... So the safest scenario here is on Sea Poppy, you guess whatever your opponent guesses all the time. That way, either you both will score point, or neither of you will score point. But instead of doing that, you could also gamble and name something else. And it's kind of high risk, high reward thing, because either you get something and your opponent gets nothing, or they get something and you get nothing. And it was interesting to watch, and with Eminently on stream, we concluded that you usually want to go for a high risk thing when you're behind, and you go for the safe thing when you're ahead.
That makes sense.
But they didn't do that on the players didn't actually do that. They were always going for the safe option. So I don't know. They have more experience with the deck than me, so I don't know. Maybe there's more reasoning behind that, but still, it's quite different than playing against any other deck because you have to think about a lot of things that you don't usually think about.
Mm-hmm. We've got it. Kind of came to me as we were talking. This Poppy might be the first. Like we've had a number of what you might call mind game cards in the past, Magic Arena, and such. And Poppy might be the first one that actually has seen real play. And hey, this is what mind game ponies looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it great?
I really like Weathermere here because she is actually one of the better cards for C-Poppy. Because I think other than her, she is 50-50, Patty is 50-50, and Rainbow Dash and Pinky are 50-50. And I think that's it. Everything else has worse chances.
Christmas and Nightmare Moon are potentially guarantees sometimes. But yeah.
Yeah, but not always. Sometimes they're 1 of 8 or something.
Yeah, not often. I suppose Spyglass is technically also sometimes a guarantee.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So and people were joking about Weathermere. Well, who is laughing now?
That's true. Okay, so serious note, if we're done talking about the deck. One topic of conversation that went around after the convention specifically mentioned Flurry Heart and how it does take a long time to resolve all those triggers sometimes, and how the card might potentially be problematic for that reason. Notwithstanding all of the other problems with the card that I don't want to get you started on.
I can get started on them.
You can go through them quickly if you want.
Nah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, Flurry Heart, there was some talk as to whether she may be a problematic card. And again, you saw her on stream. Any comments on that?
Yeah, she, especially the fact that she's not unique, which sometimes can result in, and especially in Mirror, like players having like 4 Flurry Hearts in play, and that's ugh. And I think the slowness, like, I think when there's 1 Flurry Heart on board, it's fine because she only works once for 1 move, and that's it. But then there's multiple of them, and they stack. It gets quite ridiculous. And a lot of people just shortcut it. They just process the last one because that's the one that will actually matter unless you have C-Poppy.
Yeah, with C-Poppy, all of them matter. Well, all of them matter until you guess correctly, and then it's shortcuts.
Yeah. And rule-wise, I still like stick to the opinion that like the way I interpret the rules and the way she's worded, it's quite ambiguous. Like I don't think anyone can disagree that it's ambiguous. But the way I interpret that, and I think the way it should work, that Flurry Hearts don't stack. Like if you have 4 Flurry Hearts in play, only 1 of them will work and the rest just fizzle. But that's not the consensus on it, so it's just my opinion how it should be.
We are still waiting on the Conf Rules update.
Yeah.
But yeah, this actually... Sorry, go ahead.
I think this interpretation will actually solve the problem of slowness of Flurry Heart. Because suddenly, if you have 1 Flurry Heart or 4 Flurry Hearts, it doesn't matter. Because only 1 of them will trigger. Yeah. Well, not trigger, but go off.
Yeah. Yeah, and for what it's worth, this deck also led to a number of other interesting rules questions. Like, say, for example, Flurry Heart triggering off of a Twilight and Spike move. Which move happens first?
Yeah.
move your character or move an opponent's character. That one, I believe the resolution was that the player who controls the modifier chooses, or was it your character?
Yeah, I think that was a resolution, but I thought the resolution would be like the way it's worded in text. So the problem is it doesn't say move one of your characters, then move an opponent characters. It says and, not then.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's another ambiguous thing, and I think it's kind of up to the judge.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then, of course, there was the question with sea poppies on both sides, which player chooses first. That one was player controls modifier, I think, right? Or active player?
Well, it's the active player.
Yeah.
It's if it's at the start of the turn, like with Party Mayor, so like no one had the chance to have a priority, then it's the turn player, and if someone had a priority, it's the player who had the priority last.
Which will be turn player. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, that's right. Not necessarily.
Like a yellow para sprite.
Right.
Like I think there is a situation where the player who had the priority last is not the turn player.
Right,
so
right. Because if the modifier that created the priority window was triggered by the player who's not opposing, then its turn player gets to react first, and then its opposing player passes last. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's this. Long story short, this deck requires you to really know the rules and also to make up them sometimes.
I think the make-up part is actually the problematic one. Though I guess knowing all these little quirks of the rules is like it's quite confusing to the player who doesn't know them, and it's like if you don't know the rules and suddenly you like read the card and you don't think it should work like it works now. Like 104.3 rule is kind of like that too. Like it doesn't feel great that some like things that you wouldn't expect to work the way they work now, and like it feels like the player who's playing against you is kind of bending the rules towards their thing, but that's how it actually works, and it's very intuitive. Yeah,
absolutely. It's one of those things.
Yeah, I think it is very similar to 104.3.
Yeah, I'd personally agree. And so we'll see how long exactly Poppy gets to stick around before it gets a little bit too irritating.
Yeah,
it's hard because on the one hand, yay, Poppy deck, it's so fun and cool and interesting, and on the other hand, some of these interactions are actually a little bit, perhaps, less comfortable.
They mostly come from Flurry Hunt, though.
Yeah.
Like the thing with priority windows and C-Poppy, it's not necessarily happens only in C-Poppy. Like pretty often you have replacement modifiers that happen at the same time on both sides, not only C-Poppy and things like that. But Flurry Heart causes a lot of confusion.
Yeah. Okay. So, if you're done.
Yeah, that's Harmony, apparently.
Yeah, that's Harmony. So, the other two, these conventions both also included core tournaments. And we're not going to get to those today, because the stream's already been 90 minutes long. And they were both sizable, about the same size as this one. So we'd be going for a total of 3 hours if we also did the core. Neither of us wants to do that. So we're going to do the core on our next stream, 2 weeks from now, which conveniently is also the stream right before Everfree, which is also going to be a primarily core tournament. So it works out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, that is essentially going to wrap us up for this week. So I have generally not been doing the end screen. Let me. Oh wait. Okay. The end screen isn't. I just need to fix it. Let's not do it. Okay. If you know anybody who couldn't catch a stream this week, or you want to look at any of our past streams, they all get archived to YouTube, and usually a couple of hours after we're done. This one will be up in a couple of hours probably, and you can find it all there. Remember to like and subscribe if you like the content and know you're not going to be able to catch the future streams and still want to watch them. That'd be nice. We appreciate that. Otherwise, next stream's going to be, what is it going to be? May 12th? Yes, May 12th. And until then, I've been Cursicords.
I've been Hithroc.
And we'll see you in a fortnight.
Yeah.